All right, let's come back to order. Who is your next witness, Mr. Goff?
Your Honor, the next witness is Juan Thorpe, but we do have a couple issues to bring to the attention of the court.
You wanted to place your motion on the record.
We did, Your Honor. We moved for a mistrial, but the court postponed the statement of the grounds therefore because it would have interfered with the presentation of witnesses. I believe Your Honor said we could
Absolutely
fill that in. Your Honor, we moved for a mistrial based on the invocation of Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination by R.G. Brooks. And I think there's ample authority out there on that subject. I'm not going to belabor it, but based on his invocation of the Fifth Amendment in the presence of the jury, we would move for a mistrial. That's the basis for the motion.
Anything from the state?
All right, I understand. He calls a witness, his witness. He wants to filter in some hearsay and some theories through this witness. And he tries to get into the witness's character improperly. And the witness, at some point, he knows this witness is represented by counsel in Brunswick, does nothing to explain to that or notify that counsel that, you know, he's bringing his client up here to take the stand. And he starts asking him about his charges, and he says, oh yeah, my lawyer told me to plead the fifth if you start asking me about my case. And incidentally, Your Honor, his case, we've talked about him having the pending charges. We've talked about whether there's any promises or any deal. That's been thoroughly explored. Even though he did say, you know, he invoked the fifth, I would submit that we got out what Mr. Goff needed to get out. But again, Your Honor, it seems to me kind of, I don't know what the word is here, but he's calling a witness. I guess we can just start at some point getting random witnesses off the street of Cobb County. A witness that saw nothing in regard to this case, has no direct knowledge of anything that happened in this case. All he knows is hearsay, puts him on the stand, impeaches his own witness improperly, by the way, and the witness ends up pleading the fifth, and now he wants a mistrial. Well, he keeps throwing out this confrontation clause issue. As I understand it, the Sixth Amendment is to confront the witnesses against you. I didn't call this witness. He's not a witness against Mr. Goff's client. Mr. Goff has brought him in here, Your Honor. So based on that, I would ask the court to deny the mistrial.
Your Honor, the state continues with the farce that Mr. Brooks is somehow a witness of the defense. He is technically a defense witness in the sense that he was called as a witness by the defense. But functionally speaking, he is a witness of the state. He is a bought and paid witness for the state, Your Honor, with testifying in hopes of leniency from the state, who in fact met with the state and made statements to the state about this case. He's not our witness. We can't even talk to Mr. Brooks unless he's on the witness stand, Your Honor. He has counsel. The only time that we can talk to him at all is when we put him on the witness stand. But the state can go down and interview him at the jail anytime they like. And for $8,000, he's going to tell them anything they want to hear, Your Honor. He is their witness. And when he invoked the fifth, the state obviously was well aware of that sounded like they were well aware that he intended to do so, and were quite happy to sit there and let this case go to a mistrial mode. It's just as if they induced the mistrial themselves, Your Honor. And we'll be arguing that one on appeal, I suppose.
The court finds that Mr. Brooks was your witness. It was basically in response to your question. The only evidence before the court was that he had not spoken with the district attorney, I guess, or had spoken with the investigator a while back. So the court doesn't find any merit in those allegations, and I will then deny the motion for mistrial.
Go
ahead.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You have another motion?
Yes, Your Honor, we have another motion for mistrial. Actually, we'll call it second motion for dismissal with prejudice on the basis of outrageous government misconduct, incorporating all the matters previously referenced in the matter and adding to the fact that the written agreement between Mr. Brooks and the apparently Brunswick Police Department was not furnished to the defense. We did learn on a break that Mr. McIlvain apparently had been served with a copy of R.G. Brooks' agreement, but we were not served. Now, we are aware that there's apparently a certificate of service attached to Mr. McIlvain's notice that says it was hand-delivered to Miss Ashley Wood, Your Honor, and you know, if the court wants to have an evidentiary hearing on it, we can, but if Miss Wood receives a copy of it, that was news to her. And we were entitled to have the benefit of that prior to trial and prior to examining Mr. Brooks, and we're now in the position, now that Mr. McIlvain has been kind enough to share a copy of that document with us, to have to bring Mr. Brooks back to court and ask him about the written agreement, which does in fact exist. It was not a figment of his imagination, and he probably did have it sitting on his bunk at the detention center. At an appropriate time, if there was one, I might apologize to him for suggesting that
He never denied that he had signed it. I mean,
But,
you have some questions about the actual language of the agreement himself,
Yes,
which he
and we're
probably
gonna-
did not draw up.
Can I put something on the record with regard to that?
Yes.
Filed in the clerk of court's office on the 2nd day of August, excuse me. No, this is a state's, it's filed up here, this is the state supplemental response to motion to reveal any deals between the state and the witnesses, and it is several pages. It is signed by myself and Mr. Economou, respectfully submitted the 2nd day of August. It has a certificate of service on it. It has a copy attached of the agreement that is referenced, the written agreement from the City of Brunswick, which is referenced by R.G. Brooks. And in the state's disclosure, R.G. Brooks was contacted by a law enforcement officer on the date of Antonio Santiago's death, provided information to Deborah Obley. In that paragraph, it says, further and pursuant to the attached agreement, Brooks will be paid an additional. If I didn't serve it, how does he know all this stuff? It just came out in his direct examination, Judge. And if I didn't serve that, then I didn't serve about 5 or 6 other reveal the deal informations that he's asked the witnesses against throughout this trial.
Certificate of service, what was
My
the date?
certificate of service, this has all just come on my email. My secretary's having to go back and dig through this stuff. The certificate of service was attached on the 2nd day of August.
I believe it was done in court. I remember, y'all, there was some revealed the deal that was, your response was actually in
Oh, that-
court in the motions hearing.
The
I
motions
remember.
hearing was on the 2nd.
I don't know
Your
if
Honor.
that's the right one or not, but you did
Yes,
furnish, you handed one in court to the parties. Because I
And
remember,
I think it's curious that Mr. McIlvain has one and Mr. Goff does not. So it's my position they've been served with every
Well, out of
piece of
abundance-
paper I have in this
Motion-
case, Your Honor.
motion for mistrial is denied out of abundance of caution. If you have some question you want to ask Mr. Brooks about that. I mean, I don't think he drew it up, though. I mean, but do you think you have a question to ask him about it?
Tender it, I don't have any problem if he wants to tender it, Judge.
Mr. Goff's case, I don't know if he might prefer to have it tendered.
Your Honor, we're going to tender it this time, we'll confer on the next break as to whether we want him brought back for that purpose.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and have it marked as an exhibit.
Who is our next witness?
Well, Your Honor, the next witness is Juan Thorpe.
Okay, that's
We
fine.
have another issue, Your Honor.
Okay.
I would label that inchoate, I-N-C-H-O-A-T-E, inchoate motion for mistrial based on juror issue with regard to a certain juror that had an issue come up earlier today that was discussed at sidebars, not in the open public record, and I wasn't going to put any of those details on the record without direction from the court on that. The court might want
I
to...
think that would be kind, Mr. Goff, not to put that on the record.
But at some point, my understanding was a matter was being looked at. I wouldn't say investigated. I think that would be a mischaracterization, but looked
I'll
at.
just tell you, I was going to address the issue at sidebar with counsel. The court has done nothing, and I will not do anything with it until all counsel agree what steps we should take.
All right. Well, just for the record, then we'll leave the motion for mistrial based on unspecified juror issue in coate until we have a chance at sidebar
Okay.
to discuss it. It's Defendant's Exhibit 51.
No objection to the tender.
Your Honor, we'll tender that in the presence of the jury.
All right. Officer Thorpe, ready to go?
Okay, yes, Your Honor.
All right, it's all right, it's the jury. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, we'd like, at this time, we would show what's been marked for identification purposes as Defendant's Exhibit 51 to the state. Your Honor, at this time, we would tender Defendant's Exhibit 51. Purported to be a written agreement between Mr. Brooks and the Brunswick Police Department.
No objection.
Hit it without objection.
Your Honor, at this time, we would publish the exhibit to the jury the old-fashioned way.
Okay.
And we'll call Juan Thorpe. We can get him in here while it's being examined.
Officer, you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
Have a seat.
Officer Thorpe, would you please state your full name for the record?
Juan Carlos Thorpe.
And I believe you've already testified you worked for the City of Brunswick
Yes, sir.
for approximately 22 years?
Yes, sir.
Very good. And you were working on March 21st of this year, the day that baby Antonio was shot.
Yes, sir.
And approximately 6:45 p.m. you were on duty,
Yes, sir.
and you were approached by a gentleman named Argy, we think we've figured out the spelling, Argy Brooks.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, did Mr. Brooks appear to be the influence of alcohol or drugs?
Yes, sir, to me.
And was he frothing or foaming at the mouth or spewing saliva?
Yes, sir, he was.
At that time, did he tell you that he needed money to buy crack cocaine for the aunt of the boy who did this?
Yes, sir.
Now, at that time, you advised Mr. Brooks of reward money,
Yes, sir. I told him there would be a reward.
but you didn't give him any money.
No, sir.
Did you tell him whether you could give him money to buy drugs?
No, sir.
Well, you did answer that question.
Say it again?
You did answer that question.
What do you mean?
Okay, let me rephrase. Did he ask you whether you could, did he ask you for money to buy drugs
Yes, he did.
for Deborah Obley?
He said old girl. He didn't say Deborah Obley. He didn't say a name.
And did you give an explanation of that time why you couldn't give him money for that purpose?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, how would you characterize Mr. Brooks' demeanor upon learning that you couldn't give him money?
Well, he seemed like he didn't want to really talk to me then.
All right. And at that point, you said to him, tell me something. Or words to that effect.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it was at that point that Mr. Brooks said to you, show me a computer.
Don't lead your witness.
At that time, did Mr. Brooks say anything to you about a computer?
Say that again?
At that time, did Mr. Brooks say anything to you about a computer?
Yes, he told me to get a computer and he can show us who it was.
And you, in fact, secured the assistance of Officer Davis?
Yes, sir, I did.
Had a computer available?
Yes, sir.
And one of the things that you can do on your computers is pull up mugshots?
Objection to the lead.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor. Is it possible with a computer from your agency, do you know whether it's possible with a computer from your agency to pull up mugshots?
Objection to the lead.
Overrule.
Yes, sir.
It is possible.
Yes, sir.
And did you have Sergeant Davis,
Objection to the lead.
what did Sergeant Davis do next after he brought out the computer?
He started searching through the computer when he put the last name Elkins in the computer.
And what picture popped up?
A picture of a Dominique Elkins.
And what did Mr. Brooks say upon being shown a picture of Dominique Elkins?
He said that's the one, that's him.
And at that point, did you or Sergeant Davis check on the status of the Dominique Elkins?
Yes, we did.
Do you know where Dominique Elkins was on March 21st?
He was in the Glenn County Detention Center.
Was there any possibility of him being present to commit the crime in question?
No, sir.
When you advised Mr. Brooks that Dominique Elkins was in jail and could not have shot this child, what did Mr. Brooks do or say next?
He said, well, I know it's a Elkins. He said, but if you give me some money to get old girl some crack, I can get her loose, and then she would tell me who it is.
And at that point, what did you do?
I told him that I could not give him no money to buy crack. I gave him my business card and told me if he has anything later or if he has more that he wants to tell me, he can call me and we'll go from there. But I was not going to give him any money to buy crack cocaine.
Now, is it fair to say that the subject of the reward money came up during this conversation?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Brooks was interested in the reward money?
Yes, sir.
Well, to be fair, he was interested in any money he could get.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Officer Thorpe. I have no further questions.
No question.
Witness excused?
He is.
All right, you're free to go. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time we call Detective Galvez. Okay.
Okay.
Just be a moment.
I do.
Good afternoon, Detective Galvez.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your full name for the record?
Detective Jose Galdames.
Could you spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Jose, J-O-S-E, Galdames, G-A-L-D-A-M-E-Z.
And Detective Galvez, where do you work?
City of Brunswick Police Department.
How long have you worked there?
Going on 12 years.
Do you ever translate for other officers when an investigation involves a non-English speaking witness?
I have, yes.
And did you investigate the attempted armed robbery of Wilfredo Calix Flores?
I assisted in the investigation.
Did you ever do a crime scene reenactment with Wilfredo?
Yes,
Did you act as a translator for that?
I did.
And what day was that? Do you recall?
I want to say the 15th of March, 2013.
And who else was present for that reenactment?
The case agent, Detective Roy Blackstock, and of course, Mr. Calix Flores.
And was that audio taped?
Yes.
Was there a video recording of that?
No, ma'am.
So it was just audio recorded?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many people did Wilfredo say that came up to him that night?
As I gather, we're going to ask the person that interpreted to restate what a witness who's already testified to through an interpreter in this court. Is that where, I don't see what's not hearsay, even though he was an interpreter, I still think it's hearsay.
Your Honor,
Repeat your question again.
I said how many people did Wilfredo say came up to him that night? I could say
Is this something that he told this officer?
yes. He translated and communicated what Mr. Flores said to Detective Blackstock and what Detective Blackstock said to Mr. Flores. And
It's either a hearsay, or it's a prior consistent statement, or it's a prior inconsistent statement. And I'm not sure which one of those we're at.
Your Honor, I can move on to
You wait
another
and see if you
question.
can't tie it
if you'd
in.
like. I'm sorry?
I'll give you some leeway, see if you can tie it in.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Did Wilfredo give you any indication of where the boys were located?
Yes.
How did he describe it? Your Honor,
Is this?
it's a prior, I'm putting, Detective Galdamez is testifying to this information as a form of impeachment of Mr. Flores' testimony here in court.
Okay, overruled.
How did he describe where the boys were located?
He actually showed us, I guess without having a diagram of the building, I try to explain it as best as I can. The front of the church faces Norwich Street. You got the building. When you go towards the back of the building, there's a small enclosed-in backyard with a wooden fence that leads to an alley that runs between Norwich Street and Wolf Street in the 1700 block of Norwich. What he described, I guess if you're at the back of the church and you're looking towards the alley, directly under the gate, the wooden gate, there's a concrete, I guess like a strip of concrete, probably about 1 foot wide, going the length of the gate. Basically, this was done to, I guess, allow the gate to close and open more easily. What he described, what he showed us, was that he was standing on the concrete portion. We were trying to figure out how to fix the gate for it to work properly. He described that he was looking towards the alley. The 3 black males, which actually came before and then returned about 5 minutes later. He described, I was in the alley, myself, I was in the alley, probably about 3 or 4 feet in front of Mr. Calix. He described that my location was the approximate location of the shooter, of the subject with the gun, that was pointing the gun at him. He said from where he was standing, just to his left on the alley, or in the north direction, was another black male, and further north was the other black male. The subject with the gun was the one that pointed the gun and demanded money.
So there was a boy, just to clarify, there was a boy standing to his left. And the 2 boys, where were they standing in his direction?
Basically, one was standing pretty much directly in front of him. And just slightly to the right of him. Then to the left was one of the other guys, and further to his left was the third subject.
Which boy did he say was holding the gun?
The one directly in front of him.
The one directly in front of him?
Yes.
Did the boys, which boy asked for his wallet?
The one in front of him pointing the gun at him.
The one in front of him?
That's correct.
And how did he describe the man with the gun, the shooter?
Tall, skinny, black male, short hair. I know one point he had mentioned he had curly hair. I'm not sure if that was during another time where I did the ID, or it was that time. I cannot say the exact time when he mentioned the curly hair. And I know he mentioned that he thought the subject with the gun had a green shirt.
Okay. Did he ever give a description to you about the other two boys?
No, we asked for a description. He said he was mostly focused on the one with the gun and couldn't give too much on the other two, other than the fact that they were very young, school age.
Did he tell you how many times the boy fired the gun?
One.
One time.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you ever involved in a search of the crime scene?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember what day that was?
We did a search that same day that we did the reenactment. Later on, I believe about March 29th, we actually came back again with a different metal detector, and also with a screen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a screen is, but it basically involves picking up the shovels of dirt and throwing them through the screen, hoping we would find that bullet. Going from the direction where he told us he would have been standing and when he got shot.
And you mentioned the screen, and did you mention a metal detector? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was on March 29th.
Yes.
How many days had passed since the shooting, the time that you did that search?
29th happened on the 11th. As I mentioned, the area was also searched the 15th during the reenactment.
And on the 15th, did you use the screen-to-screen
No, we
technique?
just used the metal detector.
Do you know who else participated in the search on March 29th?
Lieutenant Dale, Detective Roy Blackstock, I want to say Detective Fudge, and I know even Captain Juan Thorpe was there. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly if he participated, but he was there.
And what were you looking for anything in particular?
A .22 caliber bullet.
And during that search, did you or any of the other officers locate a bullet?
No, ma'am.
Did you or any other officers find any markings or bullet holes in the building?
No, ma'am.
Did you find any markings or bullet holes in the structures or debris that were outside behind the building?
No, ma'am.
Did you find any shell casings?
No, ma'am.
Was that an extensive search of the scene on March 29th?
To say that, as far as bullet holes in buildings, we were not expecting to find any.
And you mentioned the photo lineup. Did you do a photo lineup with the witnesses in this case?
I did, ma'am.
And what day was that?
That would have been on Friday, March 22nd, evening time,
And who did you do a photo lineup with?
with Wilfredo College Flora and Clever,
Debbie Clever Jimenez?
yes.
And where was that lineup done?
It was at the church office.
Who did you speak with first?
Wilfredo Calix Flores.
And did you explain to Wilfredo and Mr. Jimenez the photo lineup process?
I did.
And before the lineup, did Wilfredo mention his wife?
Yes.
Did he mention a conversation that they had had?
Yes.
What did he tell you about that?
Basically, prior to that, I had asked him whether he was familiar with the latest incident that was going on in Brunswick. He said yes. I asked what he knew about that, and kind of mentioned what he knew about it. And I asked, do you know if someone has been arrested on that? And he said yes, that he had learned through his wife, that his wife had seen it in the news, and and his wife had kind of described the suspect.
Do you remember him telling you that he asked his wife what the suspect looked like?
I'm not sure whether he said he asked, but his wife, he did say that his wife told him that was tall, slender, I want to say curly hair.
I'm sorry, did you say that you don't remember if he said that he asked his wife?
I don't remember whether he asked her or if she just told him.
Would it help if you were able to look at your police report from that day?
Sure.
You have your report with you?
I do, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your
trying
Honor,
to
you do?
locate, trying
If
to
I could just
locate
direct
that.
you to the front page of the second paragraph, if you could review that for me, please.
Yes, I got in my report that he asked his wife what he looked like.
And what was her response again? I'm sorry.
He was tall, slender, black male, short hair, like curly.
And did he tell you what he said in response to that?
Yeah, I know he said something that it was three that had, basically committed the offense against him.
And did Wilfredo say anything to you about being certain or not making a mistake in his selection of a photo?
I mean, even before the photo line, before I brought out the photo line, he mentioned, that he did not want to make a mistake, and also that as a pastor, as a man of God, he believes in vengeance belongs to God and not to him. But at the same time, just like this person did it to him, he was concerned that he would do it to somebody else.
And when he expressed his concern to not make a mistake, what did you tell him after that? Do you remember?
I explained to him that, I went through the process of the photo lineup, which includes explaining that the page contains 6 photographs. The suspect may or may not be there. So the fact that he got a picture in front of him doesn't mean it's one of those. I went through the process of, I explained the identification sheet, which says, option 1 says he can't identify no one. Option 2 says the person he has selected appears to be the one, but he's not completely sure. And then option 3 says that his selection is the suspect and that he's positive of that identification.
And what option of those 3 did Wilfredo choose?
The one was number 2, which states that appears to be the one, but it's not absolutely sure.
And did you also do the photo lineup with Mr. Jimenez?
Yes, I did.
And at any time, or when Mr. Jimenez was looking at the photos, did he immediately pick out one photo?
I'm not sure if I could say he immediately, but basically, I guess the way it went is, he said, I believe he pointed to photo number 6, then he went to number 5 and said, well, this one kind of looks like it because one of them had an earring. And then he recalled the previous statement the instructions I had given him about how people change their appearance and that he needed to focus on facial features that do not change. And he went right back to number 6.
Was one of those, did you ever tell Mr. Jimenez that when he was expressing going back between 5 and 6, that if he were to choose one, which one would he choose?
Yes, I did.
At any time, did you tell Mr. Jimenez that he did not have to choose a photo?
The options, like I said, we had gone over the options, which says he can identify nobody. And the option 2 says, it looks like it, but it's not, but not sure. And then you got third option.
But before you get to that part, you have to select a photo. Is that right?
No, I actually went, if I recall right, I went through what the process was going to be if he did select somebody or did not select somebody.
But did you ever tell Mr. Jimenez or Alfredo that it was okay if they were unsure because they could mark that option after they made their choice?
I believe that's including the instructions that were given. That's how I understand them.
And which option of those three did Mr. Jimenez choose?
Option number 2, which he said he appears to be the one, but he's not completely sure.
Besides that photo lineup, at any time during the investigation, did you meet with Mr. Jimenez again?
No, ma'am, I did not.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Did you tell, oh, I'm sorry.
You can go ahead. I'll go.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
In the lineup exhibit, there's only one, well, let me back up. Okay, Pastor Flores said that the man who shot him had a green shirt on.
He said he said that I'm not sure he said he had or he thought he had a green shirt.
But that's what he told you.
Yes.
And then there's only one gentleman in the lineup that you showed him and Mr. Jimenez that has a green shirt on.
I'm not sure what the lineup, I don't have the line in front of me, so I couldn't really tell you.
One moment, Your Honor. I'm looking for the exhibits on Pastor Flores, like the... Approach, Your Honor.
Thank
I'm showing you what's been previously admitted as State's Exhibit number 157. Would you look at that and tell me what that is?
The first page would be the identification form that Mr. Clever Jimenez Gomez signed on 22nd of March.
Now, let me stop you. That's the same lineup, the same 6-photo array that you showed to Pastor Flores, right?
That is correct, yes.
Because you did both of their photo identifications on the same day?
As far as showing them, yes, the lineup itself was not put together by me.
Well, that's fine, but you would admit in those photos that there's only one man wearing a green shirt.
It's kind of hard to say whether it's greenish or brownish.
Really?
Your Honor, is that a question?
You can't tell.
What I'm seeing is, could it be greenish or brownish? It's kind of hard to really say that it's in fact it's green.
What color are the other shirts that the gentleman wearing?
Your Honor, we've been over this. It speaks for itself. And now we're going to interpret whether or not it's brown or beige or green or verde. Your Honor, we could be here for hours on this.
Does anyone else have anything remotely resembling green on?
No.
Okay.
One does have a white T-shirt under that stands out.
Well, what's the name of the gentleman wearing the green shirt, or the brownish green, or however you want to call it, in State's Exhibit 157?
That would be DeMarquise Elkins.
Nothing further.
No questions? Okay. May this witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
We would like to call Mark Bone, please.
Mark Buntley. Call Mark. Raise your right hand, please, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you shall give the court and the jury on the issue now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bunkley. Could you please state your full name for the record?
Yeah, Cecil Mark Bunkley,
And could you spell your last name for the court reporter, please?
Bunkley.
Mr. Bunkley, where do you work?
I work for the Department of Juvenile Justice,
And how long have you worked there?
25 years.
And on April 8th of this year, did you come into contact with a Malik Mitchell?
I did.
Where did you see Malik?
The Glenn County DJJ office.
And what happened between you and Malik?
I was there filling in. They were shorthanded. There were 3 or 4 other staff there filling in, helping that staff out. I did a search on him when he came in before he went back to the common area with the offices and where they have a conference room where they're going to hold group. And I found 22 bullets on him.
Where did you find those bullets?
He had a jacket on, and they were in a jacket pocket on that jacket.
And what kind of bullets were they?
They were 22 long rifle bullets.
Were they hollow point round bullets?
I believe they were hollow point. Yeah,
Were they live rounds or spent rounds?
they were live.
And what did you do with those bullets?
I took them and gave them to our district director, who's also filling in, to let her know what I had found. And I asked juvenile program manager Kim Pipkin, who was from the cabinet office, who was also there helping, to keep an eye on him while I gave them to her and waited for further instruction.
And you said the district manager. What was her name?
Patricia Merritt.
And do you know what happened to Malik after that?
I do. We issued a 56, which is equivalent to a warrant, and he was detained. He was on a detention alternative.
And to your knowledge, were those bullets ever given to the Brunswick or Glenn County Violent Crimes Task Force?
Yes,
Do you happen to know the name of the officer that they were given to?
I do not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
McElvain?
No questions.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Bunkley, did you say the date you recovered the bullets? Do you remember?
Yes, April 8th.
April the 8th. Okay, thank you.
April 8th of this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you.
You too.
May this witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
The next witness we'd like to call, Your Honor, is Patricia Merritt.
Please stand up and raise your right hand to be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you shall give the court and the jury on the issue now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Ma'am, could you please say your full name for the record?
Patricia Merritt,
Could you spell your last name, please?
Merritt,
Miss Merritt, where do you work?
Department of Juvenile Justice,
And where were you working on April 8th, 2013?
in Brunswick, Georgia.
And was there an incident that day?
Yes.
Who did that incident involve?
Malik Mitchell.
And was there an item found on Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, from what I've been told.
And what were those items?
2 bullets.
Did you ever give those bullets over to the Glenn County Police Department?
I did.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Hey, this witness be excused. You are excused.
Okay.
Call your next witness.
All right, this time we will call Detective Lloyd Blackstock.
Are y'all okay, or does anybody here need a break? Need a break? Need a break? Oh, okay.
You do solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you shall give before and the jury on the issue of taking shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Detective, could you please state your name for the record?
Roy Blackstock,
Could you, okay. And where do you work, sir?
Brunswick Police Department,
How long have you worked in law enforcement?
33 years,
How long have you been a detective?
7.
And during those 33 years, have you had a lot of training?
Yes, ma'am.
Does part of your training involve how to write police reports?
Yes.
Are police reports important tools for your investigation process?
Yes.
Do you refer to them throughout your investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you try to make these reports as detailed as possible?
Don't leave the witness.
What type of information do you put in these reports?
You're taught to put in who, what, when, where, why, and how.
And do you or do you not try to document information that you learn from your investigation as soon as you're able to?
You try, but that's not always possible.
And why is that?
Speaking for myself, you're working one case. I have several cases, a large caseload, that I have several cases that I'm working on all at the same time. So I might not can do it right then. I'll do it when I can get to it.
Did you refer to those police reports in preparation for your testimony at trial today?
I skimmed over them a little while because I didn't know I was going to be here until late yesterday afternoon.
And did that refresh your memory somewhat?
Yes.
Did you have a role in the investigation of the attempted armed robbery of Wilfredo Calix Flores?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your role?
I was working evening shift that particular day, and I responded to the scene after being called by Sergeant Strickland.
Were you the lead investigator of that case?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have your investigation notes with you today?
I do.
Why do we keep referring to the notes? He's testifying. If he needs to refer to them, I don't have a problem, but we can't call a witness to have them read from a report. Just let him testify from what he knows.
Just sustain, ask questions. If he needs to refresh his recollection, we'll let him do that.
Thank you, Your Honor. And when did you become involved in that investigation?
March the 11th.
What did you do on the day of March 13th to investigate this case?
March 13th. If you give me a minute, I'll look. was told, on that day, I was told that the bullet that Mr. Flores was shot with was a through and through. We were not able to gather a bullet.
And are there any police reports for March 15th?
March the 15th.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do on that day?
Myself and Detective Galdamez went back to the scene and got with Ms. Flores and did a reenactment or a walkthrough while we audio recorded it.
And how many days had passed by that, on the March 15th, since the robbery?
From 11th to the 15th?
Yes.
I believe that's 4.
Thank you. And what investigation did you do on the weekend of March 16th?
The weekend?
Yeah, the 16th, the 17th.
We don't work on the weekends unless we're called out.
And on the week of March 18th, what investigation did you do?
The next thing is on March the 22nd when I interview Katisha Elkins.
So just to clarify that, the next information you have in a police report is dated March 22nd?
Correct.
What day was the baby shot in Brunswick?
The 21st, I believe.
Would that be one day before your next police report?
I believe that's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any police reports in this case created by you, the lead investigator, from March 15th to March 22nd?
None other than what we've already discussed.
And did you conduct a photo lineup in this case?
I did not.
Did you prepare a photo lineup in this case?
I printed one off for Detective Galdamez to do it
And where did you get that lineup?
off of our computer system called Priors.
And do you know what day Detective Galdamez conducted that lineup?
Find it for you right quick. March the 22nd.
Before March 22nd, did you show any photos to Alfredo Calix Flores?
No.
Before March 22nd, did you show any photos to Clever Jimenez?
No.
Why did you wait 2 weeks to show photos to the victim and eyewitnesses in this case?
Because that's when, that was after Mr. Elkins had been arrested, and I put, it kind of all came together then, that he was a likely suspect due to the fact that I had also got Mr. Brian Collins to pull a video from McIntyre Court. The caliber of gun seems to be the same as what the Flores versus the baby were. The general description of the person who shot the gun kind of all was a little too coincidental to me. So I went ahead and did a photo spread, or had Detective Galdamez do one.
Was the crime scene searched?
It was.
How many times?
Well, I was there that night myself and Detective Garrett. We looked that night to see if we could find any shell casings and or any bullets. Didn't find either. And we went back again and sifted the whole area behind Flores's church to see if we could find a bullet, which we did not.
You were looking for bullets and you did not find one?
No.
Did you see any indentions or bullet holes on the building itself?
No.
Did you see any markings or bullet holes on the debris or structures in the back behind the building?
No, ma'am.
And you said that a second search of the scene was done. Was that on March 29th?
Yes.
How many days after the robbery was that search done?
March 11th, March 29th, I believe that's 18 days.
In your opinion, was the second search more extensive than the first?
Yes.
Did you use any tools or investigative techniques during that search that were not used during this first search?
Yes.
What were those?
We actually used a sifter where we dug up the area behind the church and sifted all the dirt back there.
And did you take any photos of the crime scene?
I did.
How many did you take?
I don't remember right off the top of my head.
Would 15 sound about right?
Probably.
Did you ever take photos of Wilfredo's injuries?
I did.
What day did you do that?
Well, sometime later.
Would March
I
20
didn't see him that day.
Would March 28th sound about right to you?
Could be.
Would you say that was 18 days after the shooting?
March 28th, that's correct.
In an investigation, do you normally wait several weeks to take photos of injuries that the victims have suffered?
I don't have a set time.
In an investigation, do you normally wait several weeks to do a thorough or extensive search of the crime scene?
When you have the manpower and the equipment to do it with, yes.
And did you interview Wilfredo about this incident?
During the reenactment, yes.
Not
I don't speak Spanish, so I have to get Detective Galdames to do it.
All right, but you were present for the reenactment.
Yes.
And was that, you said earlier that was March 15th?
The reenactment?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
One moment, please. Your Honor, for the record, I am approaching the witness with what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 52. Detective Blackstock, do you recognize that item?
I recognize the case number and what's written on it.
And what is written on it?
Case number 013-00926, interview with W. Reenactment, Wilfredo Flores, 315-13.
And would you say that that is a fair and accurate recording of that reenactment provided by the district attorney?
I don't know what's on this one, but if it's the same thing that I gave the DA's office, yes, ma'am, it would be.
Your Honor, at this time, will the tender Defendant's Exhibit 52?
Any objection?
I don't have any objections with it tendered and admitted. I would ask that we wait to publish it until we can get finished with the live witnesses today.
Your Honor, the portion that I intend to play is approximately less than a minute, and I'm not going to play that right at this very moment, but will be playing it while Detective Blackstock is on the stand. It's literally less than a minute.
Okay, made it without objection then.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did Wilfredo give you any indication of where the people were located in relation to him that came up to him that night?
You speaking of during the reenactment?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
How did he describe it?
he spoke in Spanish, telling Detective Galdames, and also Detective Galdames stood in the alley where Mr. Flores told him to stand, as being the position of where the shooter was.
And did he describe if that person was to the left or to the right or to the middle?
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object, because I think the only thing he can testify to is what Detective Galdames said that Wilfredo was saying in Spanish, that Galdames was translating so that Detective Blackstock could understand it. We've already had Mr. Calix Flores, we've had the interpreter, Mr. Galdames, and now we're going to have the detective. So we've gone from Spanish to English. We've gone from Spanish to English to Detective Blackstock, and then here we are again, and we're covering the same ground we've already covered with a witness, with an interpreter, and now back to Detective Blackstock.
Your Honor,
Saying that he doesn't right now, I mean, is there a purpose for going over it again? What is the
there
purpose?
is, Your Honor. There has been several inconsistencies in where the shooter was standing.
But he didn't, unless he speaks Spanish, then all he can do is testify as to what Detective Galdames, and he just testified.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection then.
Did you ever ask Wilfredo to describe the other boys that were involved?
Best I remember, he didn't, all he knew, they were young black males, but best of my knowledge, he couldn't really describe them other than, I think one of them was on a bicycle.
Your Honor, at this time, we would move to publish the small portion of the video. It is 1:29.
This is the video of,
It is the video of Wilfredo Calix Flores reenactment done on March 15th, 2013, time 1 minute and 29 seconds into the video. It's actually starting at 1:24, Your Honor. It's more difficult to be precise. And I apologize, it's just audio.
The left one in the middle, one off to the right. The one on the left was the one with the gun.
Okay.
Ok, ¿nos puede enseñar exactamente dónde está usted cuando...
Your Honor, I apologize. The volume, was the jury, I don't know if the jury was able to hear that part. I turned the volume up a little later.
Your Honor, the only thing that we can hear that might possibly be an inconsistent or a consistent statement from a witness that's already testified is in Spanish.
Your Honor, it was translated into English on the tape by Detective Galdames.
just played it, didn't you?
I believe so, Your Honor.
No, I didn't hear the beginning. There was a little beginning that was low, and they turned it up.
Sorry, Your Honor, I'm a little technologically challenged.
Publish it one more time, and then let's move on.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize. Just going to turn it up a tad more before I play this time.
Yes, there were three of them. It's like one to the left, one in the middle, one off to the right. The one on the left was the one with the gun.
That was all, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you. And did you ever interview the eyewitness in this case, Mr. Jimenez?
Yes.
And when was that interview?
.326.
In an investigation, do you normally wait several weeks to interview an eyewitness to the crime?
You have to work it when each one of you can get together.
And who was in that room with you?
Myself and Officer Colon. C-O-L-O-N, Colon.
And why was Officer Colon in the room?
He also speaks Spanish.
Do you have any knowledge in the course of your investigation whether Clever Jimenez spoke any English?
I was told that he could speak some, but during an interview, I wanted to make sure that somebody was there that definitely knew Spanish, and because I didn't.
As you sit here today, to your knowledge, can you be certain about how much English Clever Jimenez understands?
No.
As you sit here today, to your knowledge, can you be certain about how much English Clever Jimenez speaks?
I can hold a fairly decent conversation with him, but something like this, I don't have somebody else that speaks Spanish. Something might get lost in translation.
And did you talk about your investigation of the baby shooting and Wilfredo shooting in front of Clever Jimenez?
I did not participate in the baby shooting.
But did you talk about the ongoing investigation of the baby shooting in relation to Wilfredo's shooting in front of Clever Jimenez?
I think he actually brought that up.
At any time, did you talk to Officer Colon in front of Mr. Jimenez about the theory of your case?
The theory of my case?
Yes, the theory of what you think happened in Wilfredo's shooting.
I don't recollect that.
At any time, did you talk to Officer Colon in front of Mr. Jimenez about your theory of what happened in the shooting of the baby?
I would say no, because I don't know what happened in the baby shooting.
Is it your testimony today that you never said to Officer Colon at the beginning of Mr. Jimenez's interview, quote, "The one who shot the baby shot the pastor. That's why they are all here"?
I object to the cross-examination.
State your witness.
At any time, did you talk to Officer Colon in front of Mr. Jimenez about what you believe connected these two crimes together?
Objection to the leading.
Your Honor, it's not leading. I'm not suggesting an answer.
Like to me.
I'm not suggesting an answer. A leading question suggests an answer, Your
Allow
Honor.
him to answer the question. Overruled.
Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At any time, did you talk to Officer Colon in front of Mr. Jimenez about what you believed connected these two crimes together?
I could have, I don't remember.
At any time during this interview, did you talk to Officer Colon in front of Mr. Jimenez about the weapon you believed was used in that shooting and the baby shooting?
I don't remember.
Would it refresh your memory to refer back to testimony you gave in this case on August 1st, 2013?
Wish.
It's just like that. Oh, I'm sorry.
What was the testimony?
For Clever
Got them all
Jimenez.
together.
I said y'all don't know Roy Blackstock. Your Honor, for the record, I'm approaching the witness. This is marked for identification purposes only. Defendant's Exhibit 53. Detective Blackstock, in reference to page 52 of that testimony, if I could direct your attention to review line 24.
I said the gun that was allegedly that he...
Just read it to yourself,
I'm
please.
sorry, just read it to yourself and see if that,
Okay.
and it may continue here.
Okay.
And does that refresh your memory?
It does after reading it.
So at any time during the interview, when you talked to Officer Colon in front of Mr. Jimenez about the weapon you believed was used in the shooting and the baby shooting?
I believe that they were possibly at least the same caliber.
And was that said in front of Mr. Jimenez?
According to that, I say yes.
According to your prior testimony?
Yes, ma'am.
At any time during this interview, did you tell Officer Colon in front of Mr. Jimenez that a gun had been found that morning?
My knowledge.
Was a gun found that morning?
Which one you're speaking of?
A gun that was found in the pond.
Which morning are you referring to?
Your Honor, that would be the date of the interview, which was, I believe it was March 26th. Was a gun found the morning of March 26th?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
You have knowledge that a gun was found?
After the fact, I don't know what day, the actual date that it was found.
Did you ever show Mr. Jimenez a picture of that gun?
Later, after Detective Gallimez brought me a picture of it.
And was that gun believed to be the gun used in the shooting of the child?
It was the one that was found in the salt pond that I'm assuming is the same one that was used in the shooting of the baby.
And when did you show Mr. Jimenez a picture of that gun?
It was much later than that.
If it would help, I believe you do have a police report. It's dated April 2nd.
Okay. You're correct. April the 2nd is when I showed a picture to Mr. Jimenez of that gun.
And during your investigation, did you interview any suspects in the attempted armed robbery of Wilfredo?
Not any suspects, no, ma'am.
How many boys, in the course of your investigation, how many boys did you believe to be involved in that incident?
3?
Was one of the boys that you interviewed Dante Jackson?
Yes.
And how many times did you interview him?
3.
And during your first interview, what did you tell him the reason that he was there?
I was trying to elicit information from him on anything that he might know about Mr. Flores being shot.
Do you remember the date of that interview?
Not right off the top of my head, no, ma'am.
Would April 22nd sound accurate to you?
For the first time?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask Dante about his knowledge or involvement in the shooting?
Yes, I did.
During that interview, did you ever say to him that you knew DeMarquise had shot the pastor?
I don't know if I made that particular statement or not.
You don't know if you did or you didn't.
I don't know if I did.
And where did he say that he was?
During the time of the shooting,
During the first interview, yes.
he was at a guy's house by the name of Big Bubba.
And did you follow up and look into that?
I did.
And what information did you find?
The Big Bubba he was referring to was actually locked up at that time. He had been locked up since January, I believe.
And after that first interview, was Dante charged with a crime?
He was,
What was that crime?
given a false statement.
Now, during the second interview,
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object, because what we're doing is we're bringing in collateral information about what happened when Dante Jackson, who has already testified in subject to cross-examination, was previously interviewed by police. Now, my understanding of the rules is when the witness is on the stand, you can confront them about their prior false statements, and they can admit them or deny them, and that's it. If they deny them, then we get to go into this extrinsic evidence. But he's admitted, the prior witness, Dante Jackson, to making false statements. So my question is, he's admitted on the stand, why are we now going into them with external evidence?
Your Honor, it was just because I have the officer on direct, I was just trying to narrate to the point that I'm getting to, and I can go there right now.
Staying the objections, go right to it.
During that second interview, did you ever threaten to charge Dante with these crimes?
I've never threatened Mr. Jackson at all.
Did you tell Mr. Jackson that you would charge him with these crimes?
I said he could be charged with those crimes.
What did you tell Dante about getting a bond for those crimes?
I'm sorry?
What did you tell him about getting a bond for those crimes?
Which ones?
The crimes of the attempted armed robbery.
I explained to him that there probably would not be a bond for him if he got arrested for that at that present moment.
And how many times did he ask you about getting a bond?
I don't know.
Would it refresh your memory to review your police report?
I have the same objection. The witness, Dante Jackson, testified. He testified, he asked about marijuana. We've been over this with one witness. Why are we now producing other evidence to prove it again, Judge? We know it. It's in evidence.
Your Honor, it goes to bias of the witness.
Well, and only to Detective Blackstock's bias?
No, to Dante Jackson's bias.
Well, I mean, the objection is what do you say to the objection is that he didn't deny making this?
Your Honor,
Are you trying to show an inconsistent statement?
yes.
I mean, that you,
Dante Jackson said that he did not remember how many times he'd asked for bond. He did not specify how many times when I tried to elicit that. And in
so you have a
Detective
specific thing that
Blackstock's
you're, okay? I'll
report,
let you ask
he
that
says
one.
how many times.
Let's don't go back over the entire incident. Ask your specific question then. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe that's the police report. The second interview, which would have been on May 1st.
Correct.
And it's at the very end of your report. Could you read that last sentence of your report? In your mind, not out loud, please.
That,
And if I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
let me answer your question now.
It
Yes.
refreshes your, you can
Yes.
look at it to refresh your memory, but you have to testify not from your report, but from your memory. Okay?
And do you remember how many times you told him about that, or how many times he asked you about getting a bond?
Yes.
How many times?
I said the 40th time, which was an exaggeration. Not 40 actual times.
And were you involved in any way in the investigation into the baby shooting?
No, ma'am.
Do you have information regarding that investigation?
All I did was direct traffic.
Well, did you know about the description of the suspects from the baby shooting?
I heard some over the radio that two individuals were on, I believe it was George Street, squatting beside a house where Lieutenant Meeks was located.
I'm sorry, physical descriptions.
Has no personal knowledge. If he has no personal knowledge, if he didn't take a description from anyone, what he heard over radio traffic would be hearsay, and I would object to that, Your Honor.
Your Honor, he's already previously testified to the physical description and how he used that information in the investigation of Wilfredo. He's already testified to that.
What's
She
your
can
question?
ask him how he got that knowledge, but as far as repeating radio traffic, Your Honor, that's hearsay.
What's your question?
Your Honor, I asked him, did he know the description of the suspects in the baby shooting?
Are you asking me where I got the information?
No, I just asked if you knew the information.
With Detective Smith, Detective Gallimez, in the office talking about it. I heard them talking about it. And I compared that information to what Jimenez and Mr. Flores said.
And what did Mr. Jimenez and Mr. Flores say? The description of their suspects?
Your Honor, we've been through what they
Ask
said.
him
We've been through all of these reports. We
Same.
know what they said.
What ethnicity was the suspect in the shooting of Wilfredo?
He was a young black male. I believe he said he was around 17 or 18 years old, with short hair. And there were two other individuals with him. One was on a bicycle.
Did you do an interview with Malik Mitchell?
Yes.
Can you describe what Malik looks like?
Malik's a young black male. I don't know, probably 5'6", maybe, 120 pounds.
Did you have information in your investigation that Malik was friends with Dante Jackson?
I learned it later. I didn't know that at the beginning.
Did you have information that Malik was friends with TJ or Terrence Stark, the other suspect in this attempted robbery?
Again, I didn't know that at the beginning. I found out later.
How many interviews did you do with Malik Mitchell?
I believe it was 2.
And where was the second interview done?
The YDC in Waycross.
And what day was that interview done?
You just want to know about the
Just the date, please.
April the 5th is one day that I interviewed him. Myself and Detective Garrett.
And specifically, I'm asking about the second interview at the YDC. What was the date of that interview?
April the 19th.
And do you know why Malik was in the YDC or Youth Detention Center?
No, ma'am, I don't.
At any time, did it come to your attention whether or not Malik was found with bullets on him?
I understand he was found with, I believe it was 2 .22 caliber rounds.
Who brought that to your attention?
Detective Garrett.
Were those bullets collected in evidence?
They are.
So those were .22 caliber bullets?
Yes.
How many bullets?
2.
At any time, did you send those bullets off for testing at the crime lab to compare them to the bullets recovered in the shooting of the child?
I did not. They were handled by the county before they were given to me.
Were you aware that bullets had been sent to the crime lab in the baby shooting case?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Would you know the results of those tests?
No.
To your knowledge, have those .22 caliber bullets found in Malik's pocket ever been tested or compared to the bullets recovered from the mother or child in the shooting?
I do not know, ma'am.
Where are those bullets now?
They're in Brunswick.
You have them here with you today.
No, ma'am, they're in Brunswick.
Thank you. No further questions.
You said that the wound in Calix Flores was through and through.
Yes, sir.
That means that there was no bullet found in his arm. It went through.
It went through his left arm, all the way through the muscle, and through his shirt, and it hit the inside of his side there, and did not make entry. So I'm assuming it fell on the ground.
Somewhere.
Somewhere where I couldn't find it.
Okay. Did you all use metal detectors?
We did.
You found it.
No.
So you really don't know what caliber weapon was fired. You just know there's a
No.
hole through his arm.
Correct.
Thank you.
You talked with the doctor in the case?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Did the doctor that treated Mr. Calix Flores indicate anything? I've got him on cross, Judge.
You see, here's the live cross too. I think that lesson was pointed out.
How many lawyers are we gonna have object?
Well, one at a time, Ms. Wood.
Your Honor, just as Ms. Johnson objected to any statements that were made and the information that was gained in my direct examination, I make the same objection here, that the information gained by Dr. McMicken is hearsay, and that Dr. McMicken should be produced.
We want to talk about everything this detective did, how he learned it, and what he didn't do in this case. But when I start talking about how he got information and what he did to use that information, we want to object. Is that what I understand?
Your question asked me to hear the question one
I'll
more time.
rephrase it.
Okay.
Did you develop any information in this case that led you to believe what caliber of gun may have been used to shoot Wilfredo Calix Flores?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you gain that information?
I went to,
Objection hearsay, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule objection, allow him to tell where he gained it. Don't say what anybody told you. Testify to your own personal knowledge.
Did you speak to anyone that led you to believe that?
yes,
Who was that person?
Dr. McMicken. I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
Where does Dr. McMicken work?
The Southeast Georgia Health System, Brunswick campus.
In the course of your investigation, did you obtain medical records in this case?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
In the course of your investigation, did you interview other witnesses in the case that might have been involved?
Yes,
Did you interview anyone by the name of Terrence Stark?
I did.
Okay. How old is Terrence Stark?
Sorry,
How old is Terrence Stark?
15, I believe.
You know if he also goes by TJ?
Yes,
In the course of your interview with TJ, did you determine whether or not you could eliminate him as a suspect in this case?
Objection hearsay, Your Honor. This information was gained by Terrence Stark, and he has not been produced in this case to testify to those statements made.
Question, I believe, was, could he,
Confrontation clause issue, Your Honor. In the information learned from Terrence, my client has the right to confront him in court, his accusers.
I believe the question was whether he could eliminate him or not what he said. I'll overrule the objection.
In the course of your investigation, were you able to identify 3 suspects in the shooting of Wilfredo Calix Flores?
yes, ma'am.
Who were the 3 suspects you identified?
Dante Jackson, Terrence Stark Jr., and DeMarquis Elkins.
You interviewed Dante Jackson.
3 times,
Did you interview Terrence Stark?
twice.
Did you interview Terrence Stark before or after Dante Jackson?
I believe it was afterwards.
Did you interview a Malik Mitchell?
I did.
Were you able to eliminate Malik Mitchell as a suspect?
Yes, ma'am.
How were you able to do that?
On the,
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
If you can testify as to how you were able to eliminate Malik Mitchell as a suspect without going into any hearsay.
I eliminated Mr. Mitchell because of the video.
Okay, can you explain that to us?
Video that I had Mr. Collins from Brunswick Housing Authority download for me I asked him to download it 30 minutes prior to the time of the alleged shooting and up to 30 minutes after the shooting. Upon viewing that video, I noticed, or I observed, Malik Mitchell already in McIntyre Court during the time of the shooting.
That's how you eliminated Malik as a suspect.
Yes, he couldn't be in at two places at the same time.
When the shooting happened in the alley, you saw him on video in McIntyre Court.
Asked and answered.
Correct.
The description you had you spoke with Mr. Flores, the shooting occurred on March 11th. When did you speak with Mr. Flores for the first time?
13th, I believe.
13th? Okay. At what point did you develop or obtain a description of the gun?
When I talked to him and to Mr. Jimenez.
And what type of description did you develop from talking with him at that time?
It took a little while to understand, or they understand, but it was a black gun with a barrel that the shooter had, and I believe Mr. Jimenez said it had it had a brown handle.
Determine whether it might have been an automatic or a revolver.
Best I could determine from talking with both of them that it was a revolver and not an automatic.
Thank you.
Do you have any further questions, John?
No question.
All right. You're free to go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break.